Okay, let me start with the topic today. So we're going to discuss the streamlining business process with the RPA. All right, RPA is nothing but a robotic process automations. So before that, just let me introduce quickly. My name is Stalin. I'm an associate director. I work in a company called Protiviti. I'm an enterprise technical architect. I'm a Microsoft MEP on business applications. Last week we renewed, and then the channel of customer experience. So all in kind of Dynamic 365 CE, Power Platform, all this use case aside. So today, what we are going to cover we are going to talk about RPAs, or what is RPA does and does not, and then what is the difference between the traditional automation and then RPA, right? Because when we're discussing with the customers are always thinking about, RPA is basically it's taking over the traditional automation, or the traditional automation is always the best compared to the RPA. Now we are dealing with multiple customers or different types of customers. They have kind of a different myth or different opinion. We'll go through that couple of scenarios to differentiate between the traditional and the RPAs. And then we'll go for the real world scenarios. Basically, we'll do that some comparison. Like a customer order processing or financial reporting, we'll see the comparison of, okay, for this use cases or for this scenarios, what will come to a traditional automation, and then what it takes from the RPA side. And then we'll go for some demos, okay? The first one is basically the RPA fundamentals. So RPA is basically a robotic process automation. Basically, it's a bot. It's nothing but it's a software. And then basically it helps us to do repetitive things. Basically, again, if you think about basically a person mimicking that human things, basically what we do in most of the time, basically, come to the systems, we click on buttons here, not a button, basically applications here and there, right? So that's exactly that RPA is going to do that. Think about that RPA is basically it's a kind of digital employee. That's what always I do an analogy as of digital employees. It always works kind of 24/7. Basically, it's all time availability, and then kind of less mistakes, right, compared to our human being. And then basically it has a couple of key characteristics. Basically, I can say it. The non-invasive we are talking about. Basically, you don't need to change anything to work on RPA side. Basically, the existing systems as it is, and then you can build an RPA on top of your existing architecture or existing infrastructure. Basically. Say, for example, you may have an application, or you may have a kind of entire system of different applications, and then you can build an RPA on top of your application, and then you can do multiple things, kind of interaction between the extracting the data from one system to other systems, kind of button click things, basically. Okay, and then it's really a decision based. What it means, basically, you defining it, basically what it needs to do that. Hey, for example, once the process started, go and open the web pages, and then click on enter user in a password, click on a submit. Once it's entered, and then click on this, go to this page. How exactly like mimicking the user actions, basically. And then what end of the day, basically, the application is going to do that, or RPA is capable to do that. Basically, it's clicking and typing, and then so reading that content. That's all about it. As I said, basically, exactly the mimicking that user actions. Again, it's a scalable. What it means, basically, you can create from multiple bots. So, for example, one is for merging the PDF document. One is for screen scraping. One is to enter the data. You can do multiple bots. You can create them multiple bots, but you can interact them one to other. Okay. Like we implemented a couple of bots, or I can say RPA we implemented for invoice processing automations, and then we implemented kind of an email triggered document processing, kind of different use cases. We'll discuss in detail in a moment. And then the next one is what is does and does not, right? So we need to know what exactly it can do. So the RPA can able to log into the application, say whether it has a username, password, etc. SSO one, authenticated one. It can able to log into that application, and then it can extract that and then process the data. It goes to the web application or websites or something, and then extract the data from the website, whether it's a single column or a single data, or if it's a tabular kind of table formatted data. It can extract the data and then process the data, and then it can send to an email or a report, or it's sent to some other systems, or CRM, ERP, or some other systems. And then you can do some calculation as well, basically, because once you extract the data, you can say that, hey, once you extract the first name and last name in the systems using an RPA, and then when you get the full name in other system, basically combine them, or last name, first name, comma separated, you can add them. You can do that kind of data manipulations, and then you can do that on top of that calculation as well. Basically, you can generate the reports, because you can get extracted data from a different systems, and then you can create the reports. It's not going to replace the Power BI, right? The Power BI, I can say, think about it's kind of enterprise grade. It's kind of highly complicated. It's bigger reports, but you can say lightweight reports. Basically, you should be able to create them in using RPA, and then moves the data between the system. As I said, you can extract the data from one system, and then you can do you can add it and add to another system as well. And then also basically you can do the couple of workflows and notifications. See, based on this data, basically you can send them the workflows, or you can send them the notifications, or you can kick off some other workflows. Basically, that's what it's all about. That RPA, it does it. What RPA does not, it's basically, it does not fit for a more complicated judgment calls. Basically, I can, and then think about basically, if the data is on top of that, the data is not structured one, I can say it. If the data is unstructured document or unstructured data, does not work or barely to work. Basically, that's what I am saying. Basically, so when you go to the website or something, basically the data should be a very structured one. Okay. And then either the reading a document also, basically. So you can read an image, right? You can read an image or a document, something, but the data should be in structured manner all the time when you're processing on here. And then it does not replace kind of decision making. Say, for example, as a human, we think about multiple things when we see the data, when we look at the screen. Say, for example, even when the website is updated something, but we know them as a human, we can go and click on a different area, we can try it out. But RPA does not do that. Basically, RPA is do whatever you're trying to do them, or what tells to do them. It's a pixel-based systems, basically. And then it does not work. Actually, basically, it does not work with a clear defined rule. What it means, basically, you need to provide them the what actions to do that and everything. Basically, you can say log into the systems and then extract the data. And then when you have the data, if there is a data, do something. If there is no data, then do something, right? So you need to predefine all the steps to do any actions, basically. So RPA is basically, it camouflages something and then does not camouflage a few things. So that's kind of the difference between two things. Then what we can say, why RPAs matter, right? So basically, imagine you could eliminate kind of 80% of your repetitive or manual tasks. That's where the RPA come into the place, basically, so that your actual resources, right, who are working on that and the repetitive task, basically, you can engage them to a different project or a different engagement, so that you can leverage them. The business can moving forward, actually. So what it means, basically, the RPA is really matter, basically, because in some of the places is you have a labor shortage. Basically, you have a team of 5 members, and then 3 of them they are repetitive. They are working on a repetitive task. The same thing. I have one organization. Basically, we done completed the project. Basically, for the AP process, 2 resources, they are doing that every time. They are doing the repetitive task. Basically, that's called the child care provider program. They are entering when the invoice received from the provider, childcare providers, basically they are entering to the government systems, and then basically all the time they are doing that. Basically, they entering the systems in the government portal. Basically, once it's processed, and then they are paying back to the providers. Basically, all the time they are doing just all the time repetitive task. That's exactly they are doing. That's exactly we are automated. We just complete that project, basically. So it's sometimes, basically, you need to move them to the transformation side, right? Because when you're manual task, you need to give them the resources in an organization. Basically, when you give them the repetitive tasks, same tasks, basically the resources, or I can say employees, may not be happy. So you need to give them the different tasks, basically. And then you can think about it, basically, it's like, or you can get them in a quantitable with a business impact, basically. While implementing the RPA, you can see that real impact, basically, 60 to 80% of the reduction, basically, in a processing time on the routine task. as a human being, basically, every time when you're clicking on few things, basically, you may get bored definitely, and then you may have some kind of human error, right, in nature. So RPA, that's where the RPA comes into the picture. Basically, it comes off wherever the human interaction is doing the repetitive task or the routine task. Basically, you can fill up the using an RPA side. So definitely it's the RPA. Generally, when you implement something, we always expect a return of investment, right? So that's always we can get them between the 6 to 12 months. Okay, so that's a project, the AP implementation project. We are able to complete within the 6 months, basically, in the whole complete process, the provider management one. And then when it comes to the accuracy one, it's a pretty good accuracy, because you are telling them the systems to do that, because it's good that systems to log into the system, extracting the data, and then it's passing. It's always do the same thing. But when the website is updated something, that it's not going to working well. That's why I said it's a structured data. Okay. So for example, now give an example, now we can using for a loan processing or a kind of data entry processing or claims processing. We can use in multiple different use cases. We should be able to use them. Okay. So I can give them a kind of now in a chat, probably you can enter it here. Just with what you are thinking on this one. This is a poll. What percentage do you executives believe are the most need of automation? Executives always thinks about the automation needed so that the business can grow easily, right? And in generally, what their expectation is, basically they are expecting that 73% of the executives, they are thinking that they need to automate the more systems in every time. Okay, but in reality is basically it's only 22% basically they are able to do that. Okay, that's where the RPA come into the place. Basically, hey, some of the manual task or some of the repetitive task or routine task, basically wherever it's possible, we can able to do them. Okay. Again, you cannot convert them from everything to the RPA and then you can do a complete digitalization. But it's not possible. I can say that wherever it's possible, definitely we can able to implement the RPA side. I can say the digital side. So what are the reasons, basically, what the business is having a pain point? I can say, manual entry, right? Manual entry generally takes, your 40% of your, employee time. That's what in the reality side, basically. And then when the data is in a silos, right? Say, for example, you have a data in a website itself, or you have data, it's one system itself. The data it's in a different system, kind of siloed one. Basically, the business it's hard to manage them, right? And then you need the data also, basically, for compliance and auditing perspective. Also, basically, you need accuracy. You need the business having a pain points here. And then sometimes the company, they may not be able to implement, or the client, they may not be able to implement this RPA because of the digital one, because they have a business and peak business periods, basically. So in this manner, basically, you can implement the RPA quick win, I can say. And then when you're doing in a repetitive task, as I said, basically, employees definitely it's burn out, right? If you do that the same thing again and again and again and again, I don't think so. No employee can stay in the company. So these are the common pain points. Basically, that's one of the reasons. Basically, we are looking in kind of digitalization, I can say it, and also on top of it with the RPA side, robotic process, implementing the bot sides. Okay, so that's the first one. And then now when we say we know them now, what is the RPA side? So now we're going to discuss about the traditional automation and then RPA, so that we know them what to decide it. Okay. So when it comes to the traditional automation side, the first one is basically, it's all kind of the custom logic and then business logic, where you are implementing the custom coding side. So it can interact your databases. You can use SQL queries to the databases side, or you can say direct access to the integrations or file access. If it could be a CSV file or JSON file, kind of file access actually, or you can say that any system integration side, right? All kind of or you have any API side, and external systems have any APIs, you can able to interact them. That's where or you can say that different cloud systems. Say, for example, I had an integration with another project for SAP in this case, basically. So I have a different cloud and different system integration. That's where the traditional automation comes into place, basically. All things about, basically, I can think of API-based integration or backend host, or if you need a custom logic, very tedious custom business logic, that's where the traditional automation is coming into place. And then I can say, basically, generally it takes a little bit longer development cycle. Sometimes it's a month to a year to have, based on the complex one. But it's where it's best. The traditional automation is always the best when you have a high volume and mission critical processes. Okay, and then when you have a system, say what, for example, when you want to extract the data from a system, but the system have a proper API, and then when you have I can say capability to change the API based on whenever you need it here, then the traditional automation always works here. Okay, that's one other example. Basically, we are giving in a government portal or government system. Basically, if you ask them for the creating many API or something, that's not easiest to do that. No, many of them, you guys know this one. Now, when you're asking something from the government portal, basically, it takes years and years, multiple years for sure, for easy one single things, basically. So that's where that RPA come into the place, basically. And then when you have a kind of long-term strategy or lot of integration to the place, basically, that's the traditional automation is the best fit. And also, basically, you can have complex business logic. We have another invoice processing. We have another client which we have a really tedious complex business processes. In this, basically, that's RPA definitely is not going to help anything in here. That's where the our custom traditional automation is going to be. And then the real-time data. Say, for example, you have a data in CRM, or you want to transfer your invoice or customer master data immediately to your ERP systems. That's where traditional automation comes into place. Basically, you can do automation. You can create integrations from one system to other systems, basically. When you talk about the RPA side, basically RPA works in all the time. Basically, the user interface side. Okay, as I said, basically it's kind of mimicking that user interaction or user actions. Basically, what it does is basically you can think about a couple of few things. Basically, in terms of the web application, basically it's clicking entering the username and password. It goes to the website, and then basically it's extracting the content, and then it's processing it. That's where for the provider portal, I can say it, the provider, we call it the provider portal, but the provider portal for the government web application, basically that's what we are doing here. And then even when you have a desktop application, basically, so if we want to do a few automation, basically you can go and grab that information in an application, or you can do kick off some workflows in a desktop applications, or you can open your Excel application or any document specifically in Excel application. Basically, you can open Excel application, extract the content, and they can process it to different applications. Okay, so I can see that a couple of clients we have existing systems already is processing some data in it, producing in Excel is already. Okay, that can basically sometimes the client will say, no, the data is already there. No, you don't want to touch up in any existing systems. Basically, just process it here. Okay, the Excel is basically the data is processing every day or every once in a week. Basically, that's why I can say, okay, that's where the RPA comes into the place. Basically, Excel is already generated. You are processing using an RPA. You're processing in Excel, and then you are sending to the data in somewhere else. And also, basically, while you are processing, you can send them an email notification, say for example, or some kind of notification, not really an email notification, but you can do that kind of notifications to somewhere else. Okay, and also basically kind of a little bit in the integration side, basically you can data entry side, you can get the data from one system, from CRM system, and then you can enter the ERP system. It could be not only that CRM and ERP, it could be any systems. Kind of. Now I'm giving an example of CRM and ERP here. Okay, so the RPA is basically kind of thinking about surface level automations, basically, and then works like a human, like an RPA bot. Okay, kind of as I said, basically RPA is always think about is a digital employee. Okay, and then it interacts with multiple applications, and then it's all in a user level. Clicking in a buttons or link here, and then entering the fields, reading a screen. That's kind of UI level things you can do that. And then basically, when you're doing an RPA side, you don't need to access any SQL server or any API or any other system, basically, because it's working literally it's in a screen. Okay, so as I said, basically, some of the characteristics I can say it really kind of UI based. And then you can see that workflow building, and then you can see that rapid deployment actually. So because you can create them very easily, because you are not interacting or you cannot impacting any other system, so it's easy to do that basically. Can say a couple of common example. I can say we can use it for screen scrapping, or data extraction side, or you can use it for form filling on the data entry side. You can use it for file processing side. As I said, no, we are getting in a one other process. Basically, we are getting in a one PDF file. That's kind of payout file. Basically, we are getting in a one file with a GP, which is the ERP system, which already is producing. As I said, so. And then the requirement is basically just we need to get them in a payout file and then split them, and then we need to process it to the provider. So in this case, basically, customer requirement is basically saying, okay, don't touch the existing system. Basically, the PDF is already there, just process it here. So that's exactly now we are doing using an RPA. We are splitting the file, and then using an OCR, we are processing it, content, and then we are processing, and then sending to that provider as well. And then we can do some email automation on the notification side, basically. In any kind of sending an email or processing or scheduling notification, we can do that one. I can also have the final one. Basically, it's a good for a report generation from a multiple systems. Always, I tell them to say that it's very lightweight. Okay, so when you have a complex or complex scenarios, always go with the Power BI or some other reporting tools. But it's still its RPA is good. When you can able to create them in a report, but it's I can say it in a lightweight to medium scale reports. Okay, so when RPA works, I can say it very best in this case basically when the system does not have any specifically legacy systems. Okay, so when the legacy system does not have any APIs or some kind of say, as I said, one example in a government portal, basically we were asking. They have an API, but we are looking in a kind of updating an API or creating another action. I can think about it. No, it's not possible because it takes a longer period to get them to done. Okay, so when you don't have or when you have no limitation to the APIs, that's where the RPA can be to the place basically. You can do that multiple application integration. Basically, you can see you have a data in a CRM. You need to enter the ERP or some other applications. Basically, or supply chain, wherever it is, right? You can able to induct them in a different application. You can do that. And also, basically, it's a high volume. I can say high volume in the sense of once in the repetitive task. Okay, as I said, AP process. They are entering that, reading the invoices, entering to the government portal. Basically, that's where that RPA can be to the place because. The government portal does not have any API to enter it. They need to go log into the system, enter it one by one. That's where the RPA can be to the place now. Basically, we are entering the invoice to the government portal using this RPA one. That's a really, I can say, really working really great on this cases. I can say sometime and then really, if you need a quick win. Say, for example, in the traditional automation, I say it takes a long time to develop, complete that one. So in this case, sometimes the RPA is basically it's a quick win. So you want to do that, proof of concept or sometime in a smaller thing, you can do it in RPA side basically. And then sometimes I think about it's kind of like an intermediate thing basically. So before manual task here, and then you have a complete automation. You can a traditional complete automation. RPA, I can think about sometimes it's a middleware. Okay, within middleware in the sense of between the manual and then complex, traditional automation side. Okay, so it sits on the middle RPA side. You can while we're transitioning from a manual to the complete automation, you can do an RPA in the middle, basically, before the transformation happens. Okay. So before, because we discussed the traditional automation and then we discussed with the RPA side. So in this both category, basically think about in what are the kind of some of the factors basically it's involved here. The speed of deployment, the investment side, the scalability side. You can able to see them the comparison side basically. So for example, in an investment side. For a traditional automation, you need to do the high investment side because you need the infrastructure. It takes some time to develop and everything here, right? So that's when you need an investment is really higher. For RPA side, it's kind of the low and medium. For the reason is basically you need to buy a bot, right? Because that's a separate license. You need to buy it, and then but it's to create them an RPA. It's very quick and easy. Okay. So again, the risk level, I can say it basically, traditional level. The reason why we are calling it the risk level, it's a higher. Basically, it not only takes a longer period. Basically, kind of a RPA low as long as I can say RPA is the risk level is low as long as nothing changes. That's why I think the structured process. Say for example, when you are processing a data in a website, right? Or any application, as long as the application is not changing, there's no impact actually or less impact in RPA side. But the traditional side, I can say basically, even though there is no in the UI changes, but still you can see that you can access the data and everywhere here. Okay, so what we discussed so far here is we discussed the RPA, and then we discussed comparison between where you can use them in a traditional one, and then where we can use them in an RPA side. Okay, the next one is basically we are going to take a look at it, some kind of real world scenarios. Okay, we'll take some example here. Let me look at chat window if any other questions. I believe we are taking questions finally, right? Right, Pete? You're taking the questions finally, right? Is it okay? Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. So, okay, we'll take a scenario. So one thing is the customer order processing. Okay. So in this customer order processing itself, we are going to see that what is going to take it for a traditional approach and then RP approach side. When it comes to the traditional approach side, basically, say for example, you are integrating that CRP, CRM and ERP system to the API side. Okay, kind of, and then you can see that you'll be developing kind of middleware, right? Because you need to do kind of you're transferring or you're integrating from one system to other systems. You need to do the middleware development basically, and then you can see that whenever you have a database trigger for the order status update, basically. So for example. When the ERP systems, okay, so when you have order data and whenever the order is changes, basically you need to have a trigger so that you can transfer the data to the CRM side. Okay, you say in that case of a lead opportunity at the customer side, basically when you have something that customer is created, you need to send them to the ERP side. You need a kind of a trigger, right? That's why the traditional automation comes into place basically. Generally, when it takes it takes a longer period for the traditional automation side. When it comes to the RPA side, basically, you can use a bot to extract the data from one place to other place. In the case, basically, from a CRM interfaces to ERP or ERP to CRM kind, right? So what the bot is going to do that basically, bot is log into the systems, go to the order, and then extract the data, and then go to the add to the different systems basically. And then it can be able to navigate to the different systems. I can say it able to navigate to that ERP systems or enter into that other data to some of the system as well. Basically, literally as a human, it's able to log into the system and entering it here. Okay, and then it's capable to send a confirmation email automatically once it's in the process done. RPA in this case, basically RPA kind of time level in this case basically it's a limited. I mean it's very less compared to the traditional one. Okay, so what I can say it when in this case is basically a customer order processing side, RPA is basically it's a quick win. Basically you can do that kind of small set or kind of a lightweight thing basically. But for your long-term strategy solution, basically definitely the traditional approach is the best one. Okay, always I used to have a kind of question one basically, hey, kind of small scale, kind of small, medium, and enterprise grade, right? So based on the volume and then based on the environment, basically, you can decide whether you can use an RP or you can use a traditional side. Okay. The second approach is second example is here is in this case is the financial reporting. In the financial reporting side, basically in a traditional automation side, basically you will be having a kind of direct database queries from across on multiple systems. And then basically we'll be generating in a custom report, right? So we take an example of a Power BI or Tableau kind of thing. You will be creating a custom reports basically, and then you have a real-time data synchronization between one place to other place, or you need to get the reports with the real time. And then it works in a high performance and reliability. What it means basically, you can be able to filter it out. You can be able to create them in a kind of complex reports and everything in a very easily. I can say it very easy as a user perspective, right? They can able to filter it out. They can able to dissect anything on the report side. But RPS side, basically, the system is basically it's logging into the system because it's not holding any data, right? So RPS can able to log into the systems individually, extract the data from the user interfaces, compile them, and then using in a kind of data. I mean, compiling them and then creating a report. Okay, it's faster to implement. But what I can say in this case, basically, traditional is basically when you have any mission critical thing, basically traditional is always the best. Okay, say for example, you have kind of any mission critical. You can name it anything, kind of anything in the traditional side or mission critical things. Basically, in this case, the traditional automation is always the best in these cases. RPA is good basically, but it should not be mission critical things basically. Okay, say for example, your manager wants to know them every Monday. They wants to know them what's going on here. Okay, that's not a really mission critical sometimes, right? They want to know what's going on here, right? So they want to know them. If anything, kind of, hey, it's not processing anything. They want to know them the status. that if it's not run the process, they can able to take some time to do to react that one, right? That the case, RPS is fine for that. But if you have anything critical that the data is based on the data, they need to do something else, or the business is critical, then definitely the traditional automation is always the best one. Okay. Third one is basically it's an employee onboarding. Now, if you take an example of an employee onboarding, I can say, in the traditional automation side, HR systems integrate in Active Directory, right? Because you have an Active Directory basically that's integrating with your HR system, integrating with that. You can create them in a custom workflow engine. You need to create them in a custom workflow engine. Now, your API is basically it's connecting between the systems for onboarding things, because onboarding things is basically it's not one thing. It's not one thing. You need to connect them, and you need to send them the information to the multiple systems. And then when you have complex workflows, basically, when you have a complex workflow, definitely the traditional automation is the best one. Okay. The same token, you say, for example, you have a kind of a smaller company, very few employees or some employees, smaller scale employees. And then for the same employee onboarding, definitely you can use an RPA side, basically. Now it can automate form filling and then send the data from one system to other system. It's possible. Okay. And then it creates generating then a standard documents and creating a simple reporting, sending a notification. It's possible using RPA side. Okay. So I can say whenever you have some complex systems, and then you can go for a traditional automation side. Or when you have a kind of standard process, kind of very simple and a standard process, RPA works best. Okay, so what we are giving the three examples here is basically what you need to decide where you are implementing here. So based on your complexity, what to implement it, based on that, you need to decide whether traditional automation is best or the RPA is the one. Okay, sometimes it can be a hybrid. Okay, because I can say the RPA basically it's a good for a quick wins, or to prove the proof of concept. If it's a very lightweight customer, you can do that very quick win. Basically, you can do that, or small scale customer. Because you don't want to implement for a small scale customers, basically you don't want to implement the full-fledged system. It takes for 6 months to 1 year, right? So they may not be having a budget, basically. So I can say for now, you have a deep integration or a lot of integration for them different systems, basically, and the kind of each one is kind of a deep integration, basically. Then you can say that traditional automation is the best one. Okay. Sometimes I can say you can smaller thing you can start with the RPA side, and then once the your business keep growing, and then you can completely migrate to that, change to the traditional automation side, which means the deep integration side. Okay, so always I can think about it in RPA is basically it's kind of a between the manual and the complex traditional automation side. Sometimes basically it's a one step above the manual one, and then below the traditional automation side. Okay, so what the key takeaway is basically overall what we are saying, it's when you have a high volume critical mission, basically, or you can have a long time integration strategies, kind of enterprise applications, or when you have a kind of really a good API, or you have a control on the APIs, and then when you have a complex business logic, and then when you have a real time data is needed, then definitely it's a traditional automation is the best. But on RPA side, basically, you can have a lightweight or quick wins. Basically, you can do that on RPA side, and then also basically, one of the example when we said basically, we don't have some of the system does not have any API at all. To build up the API, it takes some time, or sometimes you don't have a control to create an API. That's the case. Basically, RPA is the best option. I can say kind of sometimes that because to create a technical or traditional automation, you need a really good deep technical skills in the team is needed here. But the RPA is basically really business can't do that. Basically, you don't need a much technical knowledge to do that RPA side. Basically, because it's a clickable thing. You need to a little bit learning on this one, but you don't need a deep technical knowledge or coding skill set onto that RPA side. Okay, so that's all about the kind of RPA and then traditional side. Okay, so now what we are going to build it here is basically we are going to build them, and then we're going to show them kind of desktop, the RPA side. Okay, so to build up the RPA side, we have a couple of components. Basically, we can create them in a RPAs, or which means the robotic process automation side, and then you can able to create them then actions one by one, or we can record it. We'll go one by one. You can create many variables. You can test it out once you're building on it. Everything is there. Okay, so now I'm going to switch live at one screen here. So what you're seeing here is basically this is called, one second, push me this one to the screen. Yes. This is called the Power Automate desktop. Okay, so this is you need to install on your laptop or in your computer. Okay, so you need to install it to create a Power Automate desktop flow, because it's always already the name itself, it says the desktop flow. Okay, but when you are creating here, it's not sit silo. Okay, so it's always connected with the cloud. Okay, so what it means basically, if you look at here, is basically I install them the Power Automate desktop, in my local here, and then but it's connected to my environment here. So when we move to that environment, we are talking about the environment here. So I'm going to the cloud here. So all you're familiar on, this is kind of the Power Automate or Microsoft Power Automate Power Platform environment. In that is Power Automate. Basically, Power Automate basically is a workflow engine, cloud one, right? So Power Automate is a cloud, and then you can think about the Power Automate desktop. So two different things here. So in the same environment, if you think about, I have a lot of environment. In this case, I have a SP Power Platform environment. That's what I have in the environment. When I install the Power Automate desktop, that's where I connect to that environment. Okay, so it's always as a one-to-one. Okay, one cloud flows. Okay, so your desktop flow is always connected to that one environment. Okay, so once you're logging in, once you're connecting it's always is connected to the environment. In this case, basically, it's connected to my one of the environment called SP Power Platform environment. So, and then you noticed here is I see that you call it the missions. Basically, whenever you connected from your local or from a desktop to a cloud, basically this is created. Basically, it's nothing but it's connecting to your laptop or machine or VM or anywhere. Okay, so this is what it's my laptop name and everything, or version and everything. That's what it shows them it's connected. And then if you tap to that, another one. If you go to my flows, okay, there it sits on all the flows. We are able to see that. This, if you in the top menu bar, basically, or the tabs, you can see that cloud flows. And the next one, it basically shows them the desktop flows. Okay, so this one is basically, it shows them all the desktop flows, whatever you create them in the desktop. You see them here is all the desktop flows. Basically, all the flows I create them in my desktop. It's always showing them in my cloud as well. Basically, here, all the cloud is showing here. Basically, it's a connected. So that's it gives us a benefit. You can call them the desktop flow from the cloud flow itself. Okay, so we have a business use cases. Basically, whenever the document is created in a SharePoint, or whenever the document is arrived in an email, you can call your RPA. Okay, so it's trigger wise, it's a Power Automate, but you can process wise, basically you can see them, you can use an RPA side here. Okay, so I have a couple of examples here, and then simple, right? If you go to the desktop side, basically again, if you go and edit it, it's going to open your Power Automate desktop. Even though it's showing up the Power Automate, it's showing them in a cloud version. But again, under the desktop flows, when you go and edit it, ideally it opens in your desktop flows. Okay, so I have a couple of examples here. So this one is, I'll give them a background, collecting the evidence. So this one is basically we implemented one of I can say healthcare industries. So they need to know them. They need to have that evidence, whatever it displays on the claim processing. So you can think about the kind of each companies have an own process here. So in a one of the Blue Cross Blue Shield, basically it's a kind of healthcare organization. So they want to have an evidence. Okay, what it means basically. So they have a kind of internal websites, and then you need to collect them whenever some status changes. They need to collect them the evidence. So what it gets basically, it's to log into the system. Basically, then they need to show them, or they need to show them. They need to collect the evidence and then store them in that database basically as a evidence. Okay, for auditing purposes for a related period. Okay, so this is the collecting evidence. Basically, this is one of the things. Basically, what we done it here is basically the database. The database basically is kind of think about the database. Whenever the status is changed on the database, and then the trigger is clicked off. The workflow trigger is basically clicked off. The Power Automate is triggered, is clicked off, and then we are calling it RPA, which is the Power Automate desktop, basically, which is happening in a system or laptop or a VM. And then basically what it does is basically it goes to open a website, and then given a website, and then the URL already provide them the given a record, and then it take the screenshot, and then it's added to the document into the to the record. Okay, ideally we are storing them the record in a SharePoint itself because of the document repository. Okay, so I'm going to run this example. So what it does is you're going to show them. I'm going to run this one because I already ran it. I will show them. So once it's running. Okay, let them here. I'm just copying. Okay, so what it does basically, it's behind the scenes, it looking at an address. So I'm providing some address here. So just for in case, just for testing purpose, if you think about it, it's just I'm providing an address for in reality. So that's an internal URL. It could be in any website, right? So basically, it's just say okay. But here, for demo purposes, basically I click the OK. But in a general RPA, you don't need to use you don't need anything. Kind of, it always flow through that one. So you see it here. I'm not clicking anything. What it opens, it basically it's open the browser. It goes through the complete screens, and then basically it's now take evidence. Basically, it took a screenshot, or I can say screen scrapping, basically, or screenshot, and then it saves. Basically, I just for demo purpose, basically I save them in my local here. I save them in a desktop. Let me open my desktop. Should be 115 now. Yes, so it's 115. Just now it's saved. So if you open it here, even it has a scroll. If you see that the website which I've gone through that one, so I'm clicking and say okay. It's nothing but it's just show the message. So you see that complete screen sharing. So this again say based on the use cases. In our use cases, I said basically we need the evidence. Actually, this is the same thing we are going to implement for another pharmaceutical company, because they need evidence. A lot of time they need evidence for financial things actually. So we are going to similar thing we are going to implement it. Okay, so because of the SOX auditing, they need to implement a few things, kind of screen sharing, because they want to know them how it was displaying the informations to the users. Okay, so this is what it does. It basically took a screenshot and then basically saved it. Ideally, in reality, it take a screenshot and then we show them the SharePoint, and then the link will be store them in a database. Okay, you can use them in the link anywhere else here. Okay, so what exactly the data, the Power Automate, it does it basically, as I said, first it basically it's asking the user information. In this case, for a testing purpose, I manually enter them here, and then took a screenshot and then save them here. Now, think about the similar use cases we completely automated here. Two things here, and when you're running an RPA here, two things: attended and unattended. Basically, what it means basically. So in this case, it's basically attended. Basically, I logged into the RPA side, different licenses. That's what end of the day. But if you think about it, here is whether the logged in the user is whether logged into the systems or not. Okay, so in this case, it's attended. Think about. Second use case is basically I'm just looking at the time. So basically, the second use case is for the provider one, the provider portal one, or I can say the childcare provider one, basically. So we are getting a data from GP systems. Basically, one thing we are doing the big file, okay, and then we are it's a payout file. Basically, we are splitting up a file, and then when we present to that provider, say for example, what they are doing is initially they are sending an invoice. That's the first thing they are doing there, right? The second thing what they are doing here is basically the government the government portal or government system says, hey, this is what you need to pay out, right? So that's the second one, basically saying that, hey, invoice they submitted, for example, 2K, okay? But after reviewing everything for the, looking the childcare and everything here, based on this data or based on other information, basically, system says basically, hey, you need to process $1,800. Okay, that's a payout one. And then the final one is basically a remittance. If you know all about it, basically it's all kind of accounts payable, terminologies. Basically, generally, remittance is basically what we are paying through the actual provider, right? And then it could be a EFT, it could be check, it could be anything with a mode wise, basically. But we need to know them, or the provider need to know them how they got the money back, right? So invoice, payout, and then remittance, right? In this case, basically, what it happens, it's completely different. Invoice is generated or invoice submitted by the provider. That's the first thing. Payout is basically the government is basically saying that what need to pay for it. That's a payout one. The third one is basically remittance one. As a provider, I want to know them basically full chain. Basically, hey, what I asked for, what government is approved, and then how much I got it, or how through the how I paid it, right? Whether the which process, right? Either EFT or check. I want to know here. So what we are doing is basically we are creating a separate PDF file. Basically, now when the invoice is created, we are creating a PDF file. Each PDF file, finally, we are merging together. Okay, when the provider is going to the portal for the given invoice, basically they see them, they can able to download it ideally. So when they open it, they see the full trial. Okay, so in this case, basically we are doing a couple of things. We are splitting the file, from a GP, and then we are creating a file from a PDF file, and then we are merging on here. So we are using a template, a Word document template. That's you guys are familiar on this one to create a PDF file one. So in this example, I've just given an example. Basically, what we are doing is merging that PDF file. So I'm going to run this job. So what's going to ask is basically it's going to ask two PDF file informations here. So I'm going to click on here. But the same concept. Okay, so think about purchase order one. I'm going to, it's not a really purchase order, right? Basically it's an invoice here. So I'm just going to say another one is just going to give an example. Okay. So, in this use cases, basically you can think about is, these are the flows. Basically it's just merging here, but you can check this one, you can keep asking, back and forth. But in reality, we know them the three PDF file, we are going to merge it. There's no user interaction here. Okay. So it's going to do automatically. So when you click on here, so it's asking where to save it, this one. Generally, right? We always save them in SharePoint, and then we link them to the Dataverse, and then when the provider logs in, they should be able to see that. So what we are going to see that now in it goes, so 121, yes, it's created. It should be able to do two different PDF file. Okay, we just open this file. Okay, I'm just opening this one. I'll say okay. In this case, the first one is a purchase order, and nothing meant, right? So the second one is an invoice. Okay, in reality, right? In reality, all together is basically you are merging the PDF file. Okay, so the use cases is basically, as I said, provider is submitting the invoices. Payout is the second one. Is the third one is basically remittance one. So it's really working well. That's exactly the merge the PDF concept. Okay, so I'm just going to open just to see that what's going on here. To see that the component wise, while creating a Power Automate desktop, basically either you can create them in actions. So let's open this screen. So once again, in a moment. So we can able to create them Power Automate desktops through manually, or you can able to record them. So what it means basically, so when you create them in a Power Automate desktops, let me open here. So you see them the new flows when they create them in new flows. Okay, so here is the main thing. Basically, it's a Power Effects. Basically, Power Effects is basically it's a formula where you're writing your script or something. Always I recommend to have the Power Effects. Basically, that's what the scripting things basically we are using. So I will say demo MN365. Okay, I'll create it here. So what's going to happen here is basically it's going to create them in empty flow without the actions. Just open here. Okay, I'm switching back here. So now the previous one I showed them the merge PDF, right? So what it does, it basically, so this one it's a command so that someone after you come back to the system so that they know what's going on here. Basically, it's creating a list. So it's basically you can merge the number of PDF, right? Because you can merge the PDF 10 PDF or 50 PDF. Basically, it's a list. It's collecting all the PDF URLs basically, and then when this one is basically specifically in this example, it's prompting that the URLs, asking the user input. It's asking the user inputs. Once this user is asking basically when the user is basically clicked on either the cancel or really it's they clicked on button okay, right? So when they really not canceled anything, so it's going to process it right? So asking the folders where they can select them to save the file, and then basically it's all to do is basically it's merging the two PDF. What it does, this condition is basically what it does is basically it's asking more and more file. Yeah, this is for the testing purposes, but anyway, just show them the demo. But in reality, basically, you can ask them, you can look through them the n number of PDF files, or you can look through them all the files together, and then it's generate the file, and then store them in a SharePoint file. Okay, and then you can see them. No, you can exit the loop once it's done. All things basically, that's what exactly the PDF is happening, because once it's collecting all the information here, the bar, and then basically it's merging the PDF. It's an action. Okay, so if you see here, that's an action. Okay, these are all the actions. You see that this is the actions we are using here. So you can see that a lot of actions. These are all our actions and drag and drop. That's what it's doing. Just drag and drop, and then you can update on the parameter here. So while we that's the one thing. So in here, right? So we create them in an empty flow here. When the empty flow is created, you can create them in a simply complete action. So in this case, I'm going to say it kind of variable declarations. I can say it. Create a new list. That's we show them the create them in a new list here. Just drag them here. So what the list here, I can say, yes, my URL list. That's a variable name where it's collecting. Okay, so this is one way to do that. The another way is basically you see that a recorded functionality, basically instead of adding one by one, if you know them, add here, or you can be able to record them. What it does is basically so record. So what it's going to do that I can go and do the actions, whatever the system need to do that, as I said, right? Which is going to RPA is good for mimicking that user actions basically. So it's going to, so it's this is a window. Basically, I can see that either you need to record or you can record with a Copilot. You can use anything on here. So I'm going to say record. Next, let's say record. Okay. So in this case, see here, wherever I'm moving my cursor, basically it's going to say that whenever you see the red bar, that's where it's activated. Okay, so here when I'm clicking on here, you can see that actions here. Okay, you see the actions. Okay, so now I'm going to enter it, make.powerapps.com. Okay, generally I recommend whenever you're doing something, you always just wait for the red one, the cursor, basically, so that the system is recognizing what it does it. So here, the button is pressed, enter the text. Basically, it's I know them. It's sometimes I see them couple of multiple times. Basically, you do need it. You can able to delete them here. So you can delete them. So done, and then it should be added to the flow here. So end of the day, what we are trying to say basically here is that you can create them in a flow, either adding in a one by one action, basically a drag and drop, or you can record the steps basically, and that's what we done on the website one. And then it creates a few things basically which is not needed. We can remove them, but ideally you can record them the few actions, and then it lists them in all the actions together here. Okay, that's what I'm saying. I have a few minutes. I'm just going to stop for here, and then for any questions here. Okay. Okay, so let me freeze. I mean, we have one more thing basically to stop it out. Sorry if I thought I'm done here. Forgot the OCR one. So in terms of the OCR one, okay, so this is one of them basically we've implemented here. What in the terms of the OCR one, what we done here is when we receive the documents or whenever something happen in a trigger, right? In a cloud, and then we have OCR is basically it's an RPA side is happening in my or even desktop side. We're calling that desktop flow, and then basically it's processing the OCR, extract the content, and then from the image, and then basically you can do them some validations, right? Basically, if there is no data, if the system is not able to extract the data, then you need to do something here, right? You don't want to enter the data, say for example date field, right? So you are processing invoice information or some kind of information. If the date field is not, if it's empty, either you have to pass them the null or you need to, right? If you cannot pass them the string field or something, right? You may throw the error. So you need to do the kind of data validation side, and then you can do the sometimes exception handling, and then once you get the data, and then you can do the some integration side. Okay, so we have a couple of kind of examples. Basically, you can use it for kind of invoice processing, or you can say document digitalization. You can use it, or customer onboarding, claims, or contract management. You can use it, kind of thing. Always I say RPA is basically it's kind of a lightweight, and then basically kind of medium between the manual process and then the complete process. Okay, I can say think about high level kind of key benefit. I can say it's kind of when you define it, basically it's really working well. Okay, as long as the website has not changed anything or anything here, but it really works well enough, and then it's always there. Attended, non-attended. I said basically if we say unattended, so it works anytime. Okay, even whether you log into the system or no matter what, whether that works basically. Definitely it's reduces the cost reduction. As I said, basically that's one of the things the AP team basically are keep doing the same thing again and again. The manual process definitely it's a cost reduction now, and then you can do it for now. Inst processing when the document received, you can process it right away, and then you can do integration right away. And then you can have a complete audit trail. What it means basically when the document received it, the cloud integrated or triggered it, and then you can pass them the information to the Power Automate desktop, and then you have a complete audit trail on this one. Okay, so opening for a few minutes, I believe, for any question.
Yeah, there was a couple that were in chat.
Yeah.
And it looks like Jason originally asked, and some people were trying to answer this, but I want to get this from you directly.
Yeah.
So Jason was asking, you compared RPA to traditional automation. How does it compare to someone building a custom agent through Copilot Studio or agent services? Is RPA part of Power Automate or Power Virtual Agents, which I think you covered that a little bit there. So where does this really fit in? Where do you think RPA fits in versus doing things with Copilot Studio and the agent side of things a little bit?
Yeah, so agent side is basically, say for example, when you are trying to get some information, you want to process the kind of intelligence side. Definitely you can. That's why the agent come into place. Okay, but RPA is basically always I say the kind of the screen side. Okay, the UI side basically. That's what you fit it. Say for example, in an agent, I don't think so. We can use an agent to go and log into the systems, or you can use. Say for example, you can use an API. But you cannot use them in log into the system. Say, as I said, basically the provider portal basically or the government portal. We don't have any API. Couldn't able to get the API. So we are logging into the systems and then get the reports, collecting the reports. Basically, literally it's a kind of one page. We are extracting them. I don't think so. We can able to get them in a agent side, right? Whenever you have a kind of APIs or when you have a data backend data access, basically you can go for traditional things basically or agent side. But the RPA side, basically, you have a kind of lightweight, and then you don't have an access to the RPA side, or when you have a API or the infrastructure side,
okay,
kind of complete UI side.
Yep. Okay, perfect. And then Annette was also asking with RPA specifically, what do you understand the licensing that has to happen to be able to access RPA? How does that work?
Yeah, so RPA is a separate license, attended and unattended. They're two separate licenses, basically. Again, probably the number is changing again, but yeah, definitely it's a separate license for both. Completely RPA license is separate. And then for RPA, you need a Power Automate premium license, first thing. And then you need to have a attended or non-attended, you have a different licenses. Yeah, 500. Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure 500 per bot. Basically, again, it's they will call it a bot. Bot is a $500. Okay, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Is there any other questions out there? If you want to raise your hand and ask Stalin, you can do that.